Welcome to Lead Different, the podcast that redefines leadership and challenges the status quo. Hosted by Daniel Dominguez, founder and CEO of Why Not Leadership. This show is your compass to becoming a better leader through the power of self-awareness. Good leaders foster teams that are engaged, empowered, and energized. Join us on this transformative journey as we equip you with the tools and insights to lead different. Get ready to challenge the ordinary and embrace self-aware leadership. This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different, because great leaders change the world.
Hello, Why Not Champions, and welcome to another episode of the Lead Different podcast. Today, I get the opportunity to introduce you to a couple of really good friends of mine, Darrell Amy and Larry Levine, who are partners in a venture called Selling from the Heart and Culture from the Heart. Let me tell you a little bit about each of them, and then bring them on so we can start this conversation. Darrell Amy is the founder of the Value Creation Engines model and author of the Revenue Growth Engine. With 27 years of experience in sales and marketing, Darrell helps companies align strategies to accelerate growth. As co-host of the Selling from the Heart and Culture from the Heart podcast, he brings authentic leadership to the forefront. Now let's talk about his friend, Larry. Larry Levine is the best-selling author of Selling from the Heart and Selling in a Post-Trust World. Selling from the Heart is one of the first books I read when I became an entrepreneur, and I still use tips from that book every single day. He is also the co-host of Selling from the Heart and Culture from the Heart podcast. He has over 30 years of B2B sales experience. He's a catalyst for authentic sales culture change, and we're going to talk a lot about that. He coaches sales professionals from seasoned veterans to new millennials, and sometimes we can't even tell the difference on how to lead with heart, build trust, and bring real value to the marketplace. You know, the most important thing Larry does is he is Darrell's friend, and I think it's the most important thing that Darrell does is he is Larry's friend, because Larry can use all the friends in the world, and I'm so happy that they are both my friends. So welcome to the show, guys.
Great to be here, Dan.
Yeah,
It's great to have you guys on. This has been such a great relationship, getting to know you guys from, gosh, it's been years now that we've worked together. We've collaborated on a couple of things. I came out to Fort Worth and spoke at one of your events, and Larry, you just have, like I said in the intro, you inspire with Selling from the Heart. When you've been in sales your whole life, like I have, and like many of us have, and you have a certain way that you do things, but then you pick up a book that says, hey, that's how you're supposed to do it, and that's how you've been doing it. But somebody had the courage and the brains to put it together. You did a great job with Selling from the Heart, Larry, and I want to thank you for putting that book out into the world.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. And who would have thought, here we are, the book's been out for quite some time, and I had no idea. Just full transparency. It's just the nature of who I am. I had no idea. I had no idea what was going to happen when I put that book together. But I wanted to put Selling from the Heart together and kind of lead this movement, because I felt there was a better way of doing things. And that's just how I held myself accountable in the chaotic world of selling office technology. Is right. We're all in this people business and relationship building business, but I just don't think we understand, nor do we really key in and work on it to bring the best versions of ourselves forward. So it was just my hopes and dreams. And now it's turned into this big movement that Selling from the Heart, when you bring your authentic self to the forefront, especially in a world that's just unfortunately is lack of trust, is devoid of trust, people start latching onto these heart-based selling principles. And that's what we're excited about here at Selling from the Heart, is we get to just live our mission of just helping people and companies become better.
And Larry, you made a very smart decision when you brought Darrell Amy on, because let me tell you something. You guys go together so well. Your talents, they just match each other, and you're able to offset the challenges that Larry might have with Darrell's strengths, or Larry's strengths, or sometimes I know you're good at keeping Darrell grounded because he's a shiny object kind of guy, right? And so between the two of you, you built this movement, and that's the best way to call it. It really is a movement of selling authentically, building relationships. So many of our common friends, Liz Wendling is a good friend of all of ours, and she talks about the importance of relationships and conversations, and not necessarily closing the deal. Closing the deal is a result of a good needs assessment. It's a result of a good conversation and understanding whether or not we can bring value. And when we put the client first, everything else just kind of flows. So Darrell, I'm so glad you're here. You're author of your own books. What drew you to the Selling from the Heart movement?
I think we just had a realization that the number one thing we need in sales, whether you have sales on your business card, you're an entrepreneur, really everybody is in sales. The number one thing we recognized was that trust is the currency of sales. Trust is essential if we're going to move our businesses forward. And then we started looking at the research. And there's the Edelman Trust Barometer. There's all this different research. I don't even think you have to look at the research to know that trust is at an all-time low. And so all of this, we're looking at this data. We're recognizing that trust is the currency of sales. And Larry has a desire to contribute. I have always a leaning towards a better way. And we said, you know what? What if we could contribute to the profession of sales, which has been so good to us? I've been in sales over 30 years and as an entrepreneur during that time, Larry as well. What if we could contribute by designing and developing and rolling out a better way? And it was really a beautiful blend of both of our whys. And Larry, when you hang out with Larry for more than 5 minutes, he's passionate about contributing to the world and making the world better. Hang out with me for 30 seconds and that I'm like, I think there's a better way to do that. And we came to this and we said, Dan, I think there's a better way to sell. And we believe it's selling from the heart. And we believe right now in a post-trust world with trust an all-time low, that actually it's maybe not even the better way to sell. In some ways, it's actually the only way to sell.
Right.
And all of this, I will say, has ended up being a beautiful blend of the two different whys that as business partners, Larry and I were able to bring to the table.
Yeah, and you guys have done it so well. Like I said, I've been impressed with your growth. I've been impressed with the circle that you put together. Larry's even, written a second book. And so Larry, I want you to tell about the second book, Selling in a Post-Trust World. What does it mean to sell in a post-trust world? And what, the first book, you said you're very transparent, had to know what I was doing. I just wanted to put a book out. This one was more intentional. Tell us more about what led to writing Selling in a Post-Trust World.
Well, it was, thanks for asking. It was really interesting because here we are. The Selling from the Heart podcast is going fantastic. The book is doing fantastic. It's opening up doors into businesses. But the question kept coming and coming and coming at us is, how does this help drive revenue and profit? Right. So if I'm looking at this through an executive lens, that was a question oftentimes. Hey, I understand this, right? But this has got to be on pixie sticks and rose petals and cakes and ice cream, right? We got to figure out, hey, we buy into selling from the heart, but how does this really integrate? What's the core foundation of all of this? And I vividly remember this, and Darrell knows this as well. It was selling from the heart builds trust and credibility. And it was right then and there. Kind of the book started to form its little foundation around this. And we just sat through coaching, from some of our good friends in our inner circle in helping us along the way going, what is the foundation of all of this, right? Selling from the heart's the foundation. You want to build trust and credibility. How do you do it? And thus selling in a post-trust world came to be. The trust formula came to be, which is, I drive the message home in selling in a post-trust world. It's about building authentic relationships and bringing meaningful value and bringing an inspirational experience. And the tough part about this is being disciplined with it. If you can do those four things in a world that's just starving for trust, watch what starts to happen. You take that foundation of bringing your authentic self to the forefront, but then you understand, I have an opportunity to build these authentic relationships. I have this opportunity to bring meaningful business value. By the way, that's why Darrell and I get along so well, because I'm all about the authentic relationships and bringing that to the forefront and digging in deep. Well, guess
Right.
what? Darrell's really good at this meaningful value and business value and substance. So it was easy to come together to kind of put selling in a post-trust world together. Though it was my brains and all of this, it was a lot of Darrell in the background doing, right, gnawing on my ear saying, you know, this and this, because meaningful value part of this, I had to work really hard on, just like Darrell's got to work real hard on the authentic relationship part of this.
You know, no, and that's why you guys are such a good team, because you have different strengths, and you know that about each other. So you understand Darrell knows where to lean on Larry, and Larry knows where to lean on Darrell. And then you're bringing that to other teams, to sales teams, to make them more effective. Tell me a little bit more, Larry, about what's going on with this new podcast, Culture from the Heart. I mean, you had me, you know, I feel like the gal and Jerry Maguire, you had me at Selling from the Heart, and now you're adding another love line here. What's going on?
So I'm going to give you the 40,000 foot flyover. Darrell's probably going to take it too.
Yeah.
Darrell's going to dive in. But what was really starting to happen is we have a very successful we've been blessed. We have a very successful podcast, and Selling from the Heart has built this business that we know as Selling from the Heart, because the whole business was born out of a podcast. But what was starting to happen, and I remember sharing this with Darrell, I said, hey, Darrell, you know, some of the companies I'm working with, they're now calling themselves Selling from the Heart companies. And of course, Darrell's this better way guy. So he goes, well, there has to be a better way of doing certain things. And after us just coming together in our level 10 meetings and our quarterly meetings, we started talking about, well, what happens if we started communicating this message out in a different way to chief executive officers, presidents of companies, going, hey, you know, if your salespeople are out there selling from the heart, well, there's got to be some kind of culture that's going inside your company that's heart-based. I'm going to flip this over to Darrell, because Darrell's better way engine started to kick in. And thus Culture from the Heart podcast started to take form. But it was taking the foundation of Selling from the Heart and marrying it with Darrell's vision of a better way.
Yeah, and all of this, Dan, we had thousands of salespeople. In Selling from the Heart, it actually became like a tribe. It's more a movement than anything, of sales professionals saying, hey, I believe in being genuine, being authentic, building trust, all of those core things around Selling from the Heart. So we kept having salespeople come to us, you know, in quiet conversations, a lot of times off to the side or one-on-ones, and go, hey, I really like this concept of Selling from the Heart, but my company doesn't believe in that. Like, that's not the company. And so we started having salespeople go, well, where are these companies? Where are these leaders that actually believe in authenticity, that believe in building trust, that believe in relationships? And so I guess it was the better way to go, hey, let's go find these companies. And so my idea, since we already have a podcast, I'm like, well, let's do another one. Let's go. And our producer and behind the podcast, a great guy, highly recommend, Chris Decker and Creator Spark. We sat down and started brainstorming this. And Chris came back, and he had drawn out a tour bus that was wrapped with me and Larry, which is kind of scary on this, especially Larry, on the side of a tour bus. And it said, you know, we're on a road trip we're on a mission to find the heart.
Were you like the Blues Brothers? We're on a mission from God.
That's right. Yeah. I don't know.
And I could see you guys. You've got to get those. I'm gonna commit to this, listeners, viewers. I'm gonna get Darrell and Larry in a Blues Brothers outfit, and we're gonna have them dance. And I'm gonna bring that video to you guys, because we've got to get together in person again, guys. I haven't seen you in a while. If you're in Texas, New Mexico, heck, you know what? Fly me anywhere. I will go and be a part of any program you guys have going on, because what you're saying, you don't just teach it, you do it. And that's the beauty of it. You live what you teach. You preach, and then you do as you preach. And I know that about you guys, because I've known you for a few years. You know, our paths crossed when I was at the Y Institute as their chief growth officer. So, of course, somebody with the Y of challenge that worked at the Y Institute for 5 years would start his own company and name it Why Not, right? And it's got to be opposite of whatever it was. But I remember those first conversations we had, and I was drawn immediately. I remember I took Larry's book on vacation. And I usually take a book on vacation because when I get up earlier than everybody in the family and I can't make noise, so I can read for a couple hours while everybody's waking up. But I read Larry's book in one night, one sitting, and I was like, man, this is a great book. Then I got to meet you guys and talk to you. Then we went into a partnership where you guys became YOS certified so that you could bring the YOS to your clients. And that was a whole lot of fun because just discovering your different whys. So one of the things I like to do on the show, because there are a lot of coaches and consultants that are Y certified that are members of our audience, is make sure I tell people the YOS of the guests. So as Larry already mentioned, he is, as you can imagine, he's a noble sandwich. He's got contribute and trust surrounding clarify. So he's a very noble guy, wants to make a difference, wants to have a positive impact on people. He does that by making things clear and understandable. And what he ultimately brings are trusting relationships. And you hear the theme of trust throughout this conversation. So that's Larry. That tells you a little bit about him. It also lets you know that the sales process with Larry took a long time. We had to clarify everything and answer all his questions, which is very important when you're making long-term decisions for the business. Let's put, I'm gonna put you guys up here. Let's talk about Darrell. So Darrell is the ultimate shiny object guy. He has both of the shiny object whys. His why is to find a better way and share it with others. His how is to challenge the status quo and do things different. And his what is to simplify, which thank goodness for that, Darrell, because you could overwhelm people very easily with better way and challenge. But the fact that you have the capacity to take those better ideas, those different out of the box ideas, and consolidating into something simple and easy to understand. And I think, Larry, that's what you were talking about, right? He's able to systematize things, and where you bring the heart, you bring the people, you bring the touchy feely part of it that is so important when we're building relationships. And Darrell's able to codify it and help you create simple systems that people can follow. Did I capture that?
No, you did. You captured it very well. But I think even more importantly than that I think everyone should key in on is this helped us communicate better.
Yes.
Tell me about it. Tell me how it helped you communicate better.
Because, a lot of times I would get frustrated, not because, anything that Darrell said, it's just that it wasn't clear. And Darrell being a shiny object guy and me being a clarity guy, I'm just going, come on, man. We just got to hone in on this. We got to get crystal clear on this. We got to get crystal clear on our objectives and what we're doing. But Darrell's always trying to find a better way. So once we found this out, now we understand how to communicate better with each other. And what's really interesting about all of this, Dan, is after me being familiar with all the different whys, when I'm engaged in conversation with people now, I can almost start leaning in going, they're a better way. That's a contribute guy or gal. They're a simplify person. So it's not only has it enabled us internally to communicate better, but real fast, it's given me a gauge really quick to go, that person in front of me, whether that be virtual or face-to-face, within a short period of time, based on conversation, I can start honing in on this person's communication style really quick. And it's really interesting because sometimes I'll just, in the random, because I'm a random type guy, I'll say, you know what, sounds like to me, you're a better way person.
Right.
And upon which they'll go, interesting, tell me more.
Right.
And it opens up this conversation. So understanding our whys and getting really good at it has enabled Darrell and I, our relationship to become stronger, our internal communication to become stronger. But I believe it's helped me become a better communicator with the people I'm communicating with.
Yeah. And I definitely see that. Darrell, do you agree? Give us your what was the impact of finding out your why operating system and combining it with knowing Larry's, and how that helped you guys communicate better. I just want to hear how you received it.
Well, first of all, when I saw it, I was like, it nailed me. And I think I used the words better way 24 times a day. And if I don't say them out loud, I think it in my head. So it really did. It really described me very well. But what I noticed, and this is to me a gift to all the fellow visionaries out there. Before we had the YOS, I'd come in, I'd get a new idea, and I'd come into a meeting with Larry, and I'd be like, Larry, I got this great new idea. And I could tell Larry was just like backing up, right? It's like, watch out, here comes Darrell. And it was frustrating to me because I'm like, this is a really good idea. And Larry's like, well, yeah, but we really got to lean it, which all of the above is true, by the way. It was a really good idea. And yes, we do need to clarify. But once I began to understand that Larry plays a very, very critical role in my life in helping clarify things, because my good ideas are not always clear. And then once Larry began to go, you know what, Darrell does bring some good ideas to the table. So let me just, pause my skepticism or desire for clarity for a few moments or a few days sometimes, and then we can make this work. And we've seen this over and over again now play out. We're launching a new company, a sales index, which is the meaningful value side of what we do, where we use data science to index sales teams for capabilities and improvement. And it was a really important thing, because at first, when I came to the table with this idea, Larry now is able to go, okay, I'm going to hit pause on this. I'm going to listen. And then Larry was able to come back as we were bringing this to market and go, I've got some clarity here, which is super, super helpful. So all of this, like if you're a visionary, and I know a lot of my fellow visionary friends out there, we can get really, really frustrated sometimes, because clarify and mastery and, right way people, that's not the right way. At least we begin to understand and have some language around this. And now what used to, be a lot of unspoken frustration, now we just laugh about it. Now we just laugh and we call each other out in friendly and funny ways.
Yeah.
And to me, that having that language to put behind what in a lot of ways is rocket fuel, right? When you take, I think it's hot hydrogen and oxygen and mix it together, you got rocket fuel.
You put Larry and Darrell, you got rocket fuel. Come on, baby.
Fuel, that's, and that's, but that's what ends up happening when you get some of these different YOSs working together and having now not only a shared language, but also I think a shared respect, because I also respect Larry. I obviously respect his desire to contribute. I think that's incredible. But also I respect his how of clarify, because it brings a lot of value to the table, and those.
So that's fantastic. I'm glad you brought that up, Darrell. I'm going to give you guys. I was giving a workshop on Friday for a group of leaders, and one of the gentlemen had the why of right way. And as I was explaining the contrast between right way and challenge, I said, right way people love to do things by the book. They follow the rules. He's the chief financial officer, so he is a guy that's by the book. And I said, one of the things that might happen is if you and I work together, you might look at me and say, where the heck is this guy going? Because I'm a challenge guy. I'm going to break the rules. I'm going to bend the rules. I'm going to say what rules, right? If it doesn't apply to me, I'm going to follow the rules as long as I like them. And then I'm going to try to bend them and make them bend to me. And he's looking at me like, yeah, that's absolutely right. But then I said, here's the thing. What the YOS gives us is it gives us the opportunity to have grace for each other. Mm-hmm. Because once you know that I'm challenged and I know that you're right way, I know that you don't see things the way I do. So in order for me to not have an argument with you, I just need to come around the table and see things from your perspective. or maybe I need to bring you around to see things from my perspective. We may not agree, but at least you'll know why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so at the end of every workshop, I always ask, what was your biggest takeaway? And he said, you know, what biggest takeaway is, I can get along with you. It's not that we're that different. It's that we see rules differently. Our relationship with each other doesn't have to be tense. Our relationship with rules is the difference. For me, rules are suggestions. For him, rules are hard and fast, and you must follow them. And that's okay. We need both of those types of people in this world. And you both kind of hinted at how the YOS helped you get along better. Did that make sense?
No, it did. I want to key on some, because I'm staring at your name, right? And right to the right of your name, it says founder. Put yourself back up on the screen, full screen.
You want the full screen? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look at, and I'm sitting there listening to what you're saying, then I see Dan Dominguez, CEO, founder, Why Not Leadership. So I want to play on leadership for a moment. I think as leaders, this gives leaders a better way to communicate with people. Yes. Think about all the breakdown that happens at an executive level. Mm-hmm. And the only reason why I'm bringing this up is I just think of our clients at Selling from the Heart, who now, once they understood their why at a leadership level, they understood how to start communicating better. All of a sudden they're going, man, in those meetings, now I know why insert name of person gets so frustrated.
Right.
Now I know why this happens. So I think at a leadership level, if leaders, right, regardless of how big or small the company is, if leaders knew their why and the strengths of their why, mark our word on this, just from our experience, this is just Larry and Darrell's experience, you'll become a lot more tighter, and your conversations will take on a whole new meaning, and you'll be able to get things done faster than before. I remember there'd be countless times Darrell and I would just be in meeting after meeting after meeting, and afterwards I'm like going, I'm nowhere near clear on this as I was an hour and a half ago. But now we understand, so we can condense our meetings and get really crystal clear really quick.
Hey, I'm going to do something. I'm going to give you a freebie here, Larry Levine and Darrell. Here's the $1 million questions when I deal with people with the why of Clarify. And Darrell, when you go into a meeting, and if it's just you and Larry or maybe a couple other people, one of the questions I ask the Clarify person always is, Larry, what will it take for you to have the clarity you need so we can move forward?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Right. So if we ask Larry that question, you know what Larry's going to do? Larry's going to he's going to say, well, I need to know this. I need to know this. He's going to give us about 10 things he needs to know to help him be clear enough to move forward. And then I'll say, Larry, is there anything else? And they'll give us 5 more things. and then I'll say, okay, good. Larry, I'm going to make sure you have answers to all those 15 things you just listed off. And then I'm going to, because this is how Clarify people work. And Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've done this with over 3,500 people. I'm pretty sure when I'll say, Larry, I'm going to give you those 15 answers. And then I'll come back to you a couple of days later with answers to all 15 things. And then I'll say, Larry, do you have any other question? And he might have 1 or 2. And out of courtesy, I'll say, okay, let me answer those 2 questions. But now you should have the clarity to make a decision. And he'll say, because he's accountable now, because he told us if he knew these things, he could make a decision. And now we can move forward. And that makes him feel good because we've taken the time to listen to his questions. And he feels like he's got the clarity. Because guess what? Here's the other thing, Darrell, I bet you can answer this. When Larry's clear, he'll go forward 100 miles an hour.
Oh, he's all in.
Right.
And that's why, and I also would say to my fellow visionaries, if you can find a clarity person on your team or in your life, while it may be frustrating, because I think, sometimes us better way people, and I'm a fast start. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
We need someone to ask those questions. And in the process of asking the questions and preparing the answers, I'll often think about things that I never thought of before because I was so,
right.
Jumping off the gate. And so all of this stuff, I think the beautiful thing, it works together. And I wanted to say, Dan, that there's a lot of entrepreneurs and people that work in companies that started as friends. And Larry and I started as friends before we were involved in this.
Right.
And I think what was really good, and we had grace for each other along the way. And it's been almost a decade now that we've been working together. We've had grace along the way, but I think with the why now, we don't use as much grace. It's more now been replaced with respect. So before we just got frustrated with each other and we're like, okay, oh, it's just Larry, it's just Darrell, I'll give him grace. But that there is a certain tax. There's only a certain amount of grace, I think, that we all have to give away in some ways, but maybe not. But it took a lot less grace now, because now I go, well, actually, it may annoy me from time to time, but I respect Larry's contribute and his clarify and his trust. And, and Larry respects, hey, I've got a business partner, a mind here that is looking for a better way and challenging the status quo. And, even though that may annoy him at sometimes, we're able to see this. So we actually don't use as much grace anymore. There's some required, but it's not as much as used to be. And to me, this all came into focus when we took we got that clarifying moment of, oh, right, here's your why. And I'm really grateful to you for that, Dan.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, Darrell. And that's what we do, right? That's what we do. We help people communicate better. And I love what you said. You don't need as much grace when you just already know. That is just how Larry is wired. I'm using a new word. I spell wired �WHYR''D.
There you go.
It's how you're wired. And,
very nice.
And Larry is wired to ask questions. But you know what? I'm going to give Larry a little bit of an opportunity here, because I know Darrell mentioned how frustrating it could be to work with a clarify. Larry, how frustrating is it to work with a better way challenge sometimes when you don't know that? Because like you said, Darrell mentioned earlier in the story, he'd come in here and he'd be like, oh, I've got a great new idea. And every week there's a great new idea, right? And that's got to be frustrating for you, who's looking for clarity and to move forward in a clear direction. You don't like to change the direction so often.
No, and I think, I'm sitting here listening, and I have my why, my how, and my what right in front of me, so I see it all the time. And what would frustrate me doesn't frustrate me anymore, but what would frustrate me with, we'll just Darrell the better way and the visionary is, my why is, I'm a contributor, so I believe success happens when I contribute to a greater cause, and I want to build trusted relationships. Well, guess what? If we're changing things on a, not every day, but often enough.
Every 72 hours, whether you wanted to or not.
Hilarious. But no, but hear me out on this, is when things are constantly in flux because always looking for a better way.
Right.
And I don't have clarity on it. It's hard for me to build trusted relationships. And more importantly, it's hard for me to be the evangelist at selling from the heart and bring this mission forward if I don't have clarity. And what was really interesting, and it's what I love about our relationship, is over the course of the last year and a half, we've seen significant growth at selling from the heart, because we now truly, and I mean truly, understand not only how to communicate internally, but how to take this out into the business world. Because I remember having these conversations that said, Darrell, we've got it. I think we got it. Are we clear? We got it. Now what we have to do is hone in on the messaging and the process so we all can get clear on this. Because I think once we get clear on this, your better way takes off. Because I agree, it's a better way.
Right. And I think that's what drew him to it, right? He saw a better way. Darrell, was it you that talked about pixie sticks? And what did you say earlier?
I said pixie sticks, and I said, but I want to go back to that, because this is what I want coaches to start. If you have somebody to lean into, or somebody to run some ideas by, or a significant other, or even a business partner, is a lot of times selling from the heart was viewed as pixie sticks and rose petals and, puppy dogs and cakes and ice cream. It's nice, right?
All right.
It's fluffy stuff, right?
Hold on, Larry. I'm going to give a shout out to my 3-year-old granddaughter, who's turning 4 this summer. It's cotton candy rainbow unicorns. That's what she.
There we go.
It was cotton candy rainbow unicorns, but it's all soft and feel good. You're absolutely right. And
right. but then, right, so I'm taking all the things that are close to my heart that I really believe in, that people would view as what I just said. Now it's cotton candy and
Rainbow
unicorns,
unicorns.
rainbow unicorns. But we married it with Darrell's business sense and meaningful value and better way, and goes, you know what? We're going to take this and we're going to integrate this into a way to create something really unique out into the sales world that we feel hasn't been done. So that's taken, right? That's taken my mission of contributing to a greater cause, me wanting to build trusted relationships with our clients. Let's get really crystal clear on it and marry it with Darrell's business sense, business value that he brings to the forefront, but his visionary thoughts and his better way. Now we've married that all together and we got crystal clear on this. And once we got crystal clear on it, that's where we started seeing significant growth. And I think Darrell would agree on it.
I would think so too. And the clarity too. And I would say my better way work inside Selling from the Heart now. I'm now that we've gotten more and more clarity, I'm able to kind of color between the lines a little more. And I love reinventing things. We've reinvented how to train salespeople. We've reinvented coaching sales leaders. We've launched an analytics company that's got .ai on the back. So, my better way is, now it's in the background, just spinning, thinking about what we can do, but it's all focused now around the direction we've agreed on. And so there's something I think super powerful about this. And, what's interesting is we work in sales development. We help companies grow their top line revenue at Selling from the Heart. And we believe that trust is the currency of sales. We also believe that trust is the currency of leadership. So even though we take an extremely analytical front end to our engagements with clients by indexing their sales team and looking where they, need improvement, the other thing that we do in the process of that is we leverage YOS. So all of the sales managers understand what motivates and gets the people on their team out of bed in the morning. So they are able to sit down with somebody and go, hey, you're a contribute person. Great. Now I understand how can I help coach you to really enjoy your role as a sales professional in this company, in the contribution that you're making to the clients that we serve. Or if he's coaching me, you're a better way. How can I coach you to be able to go out and fly your better way flag and help our current and future clients do business in a better way? And like all of this is great. So we have all this data and analytics about where, sales skills, motivation, all that is just really, really good. But when we pair that with YOS, we're able to get this. To me, it's kind of like the secret sauce you put on top to go, okay, now we can really understand what motivates that salesperson. Because guess what? Anyone can say salespeople are coin operated machines. Not true. There's something below that. It's, most of the successful, and we work with a lot of high performance sales teams and tenured salespeople, they're already making more money than they ever dreamed they could make. So, saying you can make more money is not the ultimate. It's saying, can you fulfill your why in this role? And you start coaching towards that and helping them improve their skills so they can fulfill their why. Then you're putting together a sales team that is going to run through walls for you. And by the way, it's probably going to stick around. They're not going to, just leave because the next recruiter that, calls says, hey, you can make X dollars more at this other company. Right. So this is, the glue. Why in a lot of ways is the glue behind all of this in terms of our specialization of sales growth in helping those sales leaders coach their people and motivate them. Why is an extremely powerful tool that we use in the mix of all of these other technical things.
No, I love what you said there, Darrell, because one of the things that I want to talk about is the fact that, when we talk about our why, everybody thinks that they take the YOS and going to figure out their purpose, and that's not it. What it does give us a tool to understand how we're wired to lead that bigger mission. As you know, I'm a person of faith, and I think you guys are too. At the end of the day, when we're people of faith, whatever your faith is, whatever your belief is, you want to get to heaven or whatever that final destination is. And none of us want to get to that final destination, get to that exit interview, and find that we left some things undone, because that's where the regret sets in, right? I unfortunately have seen, had a few family deaths recently, and regret is so terrible.
Mhm.
I want to go to my deathbed and say, man, I tried everything. I saw a bumper sticker the other day, and it said, you just gotta try. You gotta at least try. And that's it. And when you are a leader and you understand yourself, because it all starts with self-awareness, whether you're leading a 4-person team or you're leading a 5,000-person team, when you understand yourself, what drives you, it's going to help you get to that exit interview and hear from the big guy, where he's going to say, hey, Dan, here's the potential I gave you, and here's what you did. Right? None of us want to hear, here's the potential I gave you, and here's what you did. And so you're at a little bit of a deficit. We all have a God-given talent, a God-given personal mission. And I'll share this with you guys at another time. One of the things I take people through, we all have our simple YOS. I believe that success happens when I contribute to a greater cause. How I do that is by making things clear and understand, and what I bring are relationships you can trust. That's Larry. That's simple, and it's good, and it gives people an idea. What we've developed is what we call your God-given personal brand, and we just expand on it so that you can put that on your LinkedIn profile, and people will say, hey, that guy wants clarity. That guy wants trust, and that guy wants to contribute to the success of others. And we find ways to do it. ChatGPT has made it a lot easier. So we plug the appropriate prompts in there, and we've gotten some fantastic results. But that's what, Darrell, what you were talking about, and going into a conversation with someone, understanding what drives them. And again, one of the things you guys have learned from me is using that platinum rule. People don't care what you want. They care what they want. So if I'm talking to Darrell, I want to show him how it's better, how it's different, and how it's simple.
Yeah.
And if I can share that with him, he's bought in. And if I bring Larry into the conversation, I want to show him how it's going to make a difference, how it's going to be clear, and how it's going to build trust. And then he's going to buy in. And then when you come to me, it's got to contribute to the success of others. It's got to be different, and it's got to make sense. So again, we've all got keywords that we're looking for, and one of the things people say to me all the time is, well, Dan, there's still bad ideas, right? Oh yeah. But what I say is this, and think about this when you're talking about sales effectiveness, as you guys are working with your clients, sales effectiveness comes from talking to people in their language, right? So that, because how many good ideas die without even being verbalized because we didn't speak them correctly? So yeah, if I have a terrible idea, it's probably not going to get adopted. It's not going to get implemented. But if I know, if Darrell's my CEO and I've got to go present an idea to him, I'm going to make sure I can show him how it's better, how it's different, and how it's simple. And that gives my idea a better chance to survive. That filter that Darrell has. And then he'll say, hey, let's go take it to Larry. And with Larry, we're going to show him how this is going to contribute to the success of the company. We're going to show him a very clear plan of action and how it's going to build trust. And that's how you carry that idea. So in some of the companies that we've worked with, we literally tell them, put your why, like Larry has it in front of him, that why, how, and what. If he had a bunch of people in his office coming in, put it on your door so they know how to talk to you when you come in. It takes a lot of the frustration out of the conversations. Have you guys seen that?
Oh, what's interesting about this is not only do I have it in front of me, if anyone goes to my LinkedIn profile,
yes,
and they go to my about section, the first couple paragraphs, small paragraphs, all bring my why to the forefront. You get a really clear understanding of me. If you went to my profile, open up my about section, you're going to see this. And as I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying, here's what I really want to stress. And I know everybody wants this. When they're engaged in a conversation with somebody, they desire this. They may not say it, but it's silently going in the back of their head. I want to connect to this person, and I want to relate to this person, and I want to do it as quick as possible. I don't know of a better way to connect and relate to somebody than to truly understand what makes them tick. So if somebody wants to instantaneously connect with me, and relate to me, all they have to do is go to my LinkedIn profile. They can see my why, my how, and my what, and instantaneously they know how to communicate with me if they pay attention to it.
If they're paying attention, right? And that's probably another, I know that's another tip. So much of good salesmanship is listening.
Yes.
If you're asking good questions and you're listening, you're going to figure out what your client wants. All the YOS it's a shortcut. I call it the easy button. I can guess, I can spend time getting to know the client and understand them. And for many people, that's what works. But why guess when you can know for sure? Right. And that's what you guys are bringing to your clients. So culture from the heart, that's the new podcast. Tell me what you're looking for. What kind of guests are you interviewing? Who should we send your way? If we're listening here and we say, oh man, this guy needs to be on Culture from the Heart, whose boss or whose CEO friend needs to be getting a phone call from us so that we send them your way?
Yeah. So we're on a mission to find the heart-centered leaders of America's companies. And hey, we'll talk to people in Canada and really around the world. So but all of this, we're looking for CEOs who have companies with great cultures, 50, 100 or more employees. We're looking for people who are leading, large teams of people. And so if you know one of those CEOs, you go, that's my CEO, they need to be on Culture from the Heart. All you got to do is go to culturefromtheheart.com, and right up there at the top is a button that says nominate your CEO. And we'd love to meet him, because we're really on a mission to find and feature these companies, because we believe that when you lead from the heart, you watch your culture thrive. We say it at the end of each podcast, and we all know the data about how many hours of our life and our week we're going to spend at work. And Larry and I want to champion these leaders who are saying, let's make work awesome. Let's start with why. Let's invest in people. Let's make work a place where I leave at the end of the day and I actually leave with more energy than when I showed up. And unfortunately, the majority of companies in our country aren't like that. We want to find the ones that are, and we want to feature them. And so, yeah, join us too. By the way, if you're listening in, Culture from the Heart, help us spread the movement. Like, look for us on social, look for us on your podcast platforms on YouTube. And if you're really generous, follow it, and maybe even leave us a review if you like what you see there, because we want to look up 10 years from now and recognize that we've made a big difference. We've contributed to the business world out there. Tip of the hat to Larry.
There we go.
And we have made a contribution by saying, hey, you can run, we want to champion that you can run your company like this, and the world's going to be a better place when you do. So yeah, if you've got someone, nominate your CEOs of heart-centered companies with great cultures, 50 or more employees. Yeah, bring them. Let's talk to them. Let's show them to the world.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that, Darrell. You know what we want to do is I want you guys to contribute by finding a better way that makes it clear and simple for you to build trust with your companies. Let's combine all of your YOSs, all of your Ys into one big, but that's what you do. That's why I wanted to have you on the show. Let's close with, I'm going to ask each of you this question, because I know you guys have a hard stop, and I want to make sure we get a chance to do this. I'll start with you, Darrell, because you're already on the big screen. What does it mean to you to lead different?
Yeah, well, I think it begins with looking at leadership as a thing, like a practice, a discipline, something that is that needs to be worked on, and of course, there's a better way. If I look right over my monitor, all my leadership books are on the shelf on the other side of my desk here, and so I think it means becoming a student of leadership and recognizing that there's a lot of different ways to lead, But no matter how you do it, you should do it from your heart. And I think a lot of that is leading. If you think in the context of YOS, lean into your strengths.
Right.
And recognize that your team around you and all the people in your company have their own strengths as well. So I think become a student of that, become a student of the people around you. And I think, as we've talked about today, when you start to recognize the different strengths across your team, as Larry and I have recognized just in running this business together, that the sum of the parts is greater than the individual parts themselves. And that's where the magic begins to happen.
Love that. Larry. Oh, let me bring Larry over here. There you are. I clicked on the wrong button. Larry, what does it mean to you to lead different?
Okay, so I got a different take on this. I'm actually going to bring my why into this.
All right.
And this is the clarity part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason why I'm going down this road is I just believe this. In order to lead different, you got to be willing to look in the mirror and lead yourself differently. What I mean by that is, I'd say this: I've transformed myself over the last 10 years. I'm a totally different person now at 60 than I was at 50. I've learned more about myself in leading than I did in my 20s, 30s, and 40s combined in this last decade. One simple reason: I wanted to get clarity on who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got internal clarity on who I was, and I brought that authentic version of myself to the forefront,
right?
I'm always open-minded. I'm massively open-minded on how to become a better version of me. So lead differently starts with looking in the mirror, getting clarity, and keeping an open mind that, you know what? I have the capability and capacity to lead myself differently. If I can't lead myself differently and I'm a leader, I can't expect to lead anybody else differently to do better business.
And
so that's my take. I'm sticking to it, Dominguez.
No, I love it. It starts with self-awareness, as you said. So you guys, we didn't get a chance to talk about this in the pre-show, but we end every show. We say, why don't we end the show on that note? And the guest is supposed to say, why not? Right. But I didn't coach you guys on that. And there's two of you. And this is Sunil is going to be so happy.
Do this.
Okay.
We can do this.
You weren't clear. Dan, you weren't clear in the very beginning. So
well, that's why I'm clarifying it now, because I know that if I just go to the question, Larry's going to just look at me with the deer in the headlights look and say, what? And he's going to turn to Darrell and say, what the heck's he talking about? Right. So I'm going to take myself off screen. I'm going to ask the question, and then you guys are going to say, why not, in tandem? Let's see if we can do that. I'm going to remove myself.
Can we pull this off, Larry?
I think so. I think I'm clear. I think I'm clear.
Well, I don't know. There may be a
not,
better way to do this, but
if not, then
we'll
we're
roll
gonna
with
figure
it.
this out.
Dan? Maybe Dan has left us alone to entertain each other and the guests.
No way, guys. Here's what I'm going to ask. It's been a pleasure to have you on. It's been amazing to hear about your journey, to hear about just the growth you've had in the past year, the new ventures that you're involved in, and how you're making a difference in the lives of leaders of big companies around the country, how you guys have systematized your program in order to help more people. And I just am so proud to call you friends. I'm excited for the future of Culture from the Heart, Selling from the Heart, and everything that you guys touch. So with all that being said, what do you say we end the show on that note?
Why not?
I love it. Thank you so much, Larry, Levine, Darrell, Amy.
Oh, that's great.
You guys are welcome on the Lead Different podcast anytime. We will just have to have you come back and give us some updates. I know we've got some collaboration opportunities that we're going to work on. I can't wait to be a part of it. And let's just make it a goal that in 2025, we're going to see each other in person. I really enjoyed seeing you guys in Fort Worth a couple of years ago. And I know you've got another event coming up that we're going to bring Dan over, and let's do something together, something big, something great. And if not, I'll invite you to one of my events. How's that?
Perfect.
Deal.
Works for us.
Guys, I know you have a hard stop. I'm going to give you some prep time. Darrell doesn't need any prep time, but Larry's got a lot of notes he's got to read through to make sure he's clear before he gets in there. So, guys, thank you very much. All of you Lead Different podcast listeners, don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. If you got value out of today's episode, make sure you leave us a comment and then recommend us to your friends, because we're going to bring amazing people like Darrell and Larry to you every single week. We're going to tell some great stories about what it's like to lead different, what it's like to build your network on trust, on contributing to the success of others, and finding better ways to lead different. Have a great rest of the week. Thank you, Darrell. Thank you, Larry. And we'll see you guys on the air date. Take care.
This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different because great leaders change the world.